And if you listen very closely, you can hear the screams of agony coming from the Sanic mains on this planet. There's only two of them, so that's why you have to listen so closely. Smash Heroes finally got updated. We had this thread posted in early December asking for suggestions. I thought it wasn't going to happen. It's January 25th. Finally happened. We got our update. We've got our NPCs. We've got a bunch of other quality of life stuff. We've got balance changes. We even have new maps. Couldn't ask for more just on paper, but let's dig a little deeper, see what we've got. Starting with the quality of life stuff, we finally got NPCs. No more confusion, no more nons asking how do I join a game. 4 years late, but I'll take it. I'm sure somehow someone will be confused as to join, like they'll want to join 2v2, and they'll go over to this side and not know that there's another side somehow. But if you can't join a game now, you're clearly never going to be good at the game. The next change is a big one. We can now use the settings menu for something useful. We can toggle prestige HP. That's awesome. It means less dodging, especially if you can nick, and it means that more balanced tournaments will be a thing. I hate this name. Why is this a thing? Now, in tournaments, we can just say, disable press HP. We're not having any skewed results or controversy about who should have won that tournament, yada yada yada. Awesome. Lastly, we've got this thing called game streaks. If you play 7 straight games, you get a 20% experience boost. That's cool. More XP for those that grind, and an incentive to not dodge, because it has to be 7 games without quitting. So there's some changes made that will make dodging less common. I think it will still be a thing, but at least there's something done about it. Okay, so I forgot to record this one in my actual recording session, but respawn points are now randomized instead of based on like the furthest location from any players. It's obviously to prevent spawn grab and spawn grip, but it's not the best way to go about it. You just make immunity work right. It's kind of the lazy way out. Not happy about this one, but it accomplishes its goal, I guess. But yeah, we've got randomized respawn points now, so that's going to be a weird one to adapt to. So Bulk didn't get too much of a buff, sadly. All that he got, Bulk Slam, it does 5 damage instead of 4. I wish they would have increased the damage on Bulk Charge 7 to 8. That would have been slightly more impactful since you hit those more often. Or you could have decreased the cooldown on Car and Charge to 5.5 seconds instead of 6. Those would have been better buffs in my opinion. But at least they didn't ignore him like certain heroes. Next up we've got Cluck. Big buff. Big Cluck buff. His rocket, it does 7 damage now, instead of 6, it's got 7. That's his primary ability. He's doing that every second. That's gonna add up. This is a very significant buff right here. It's gonna make Cluck, a solid character, You're not gonna wanna sleep on him anymore. Additionally, as Clusterbuck, those eggs that shoot out after the rocket hits, they've got more range and hitbox increase, so it's gonna be scarier that way. Not sure what the actual increases are, because for some reason they don't write this stuff down. But it's increased. I mean, an increase is an increase. It's going to do something. But Cluck is going to be a bit scarier now. And then on top of that, Chicken Army spawns 6 chickens instead of 5. Not too huge since they never hit, but, in the off chance that they, for some reason, have, perfect aimbot and hit every single shot, you're going to go down to 0 health instead of 6. Similarly to Bulk, Cake Monster didn't have too much happen, but he has more mitigation. His Regurg Cake used to give him 5% less damage, up to 30%, 30% mitigation on damage he takes. Now it's 7 and a maximum of 42. So more mitigation. Can't complain about that. That's going to make him a slightly better character. Could have done more. Personally, I've always wanted to see Death Cake activated with Shift, but take what you can get. Botmon didn't necessarily get nerfed, but certainly a good change. His Bot Claw, you have to touch the ground when you want to use it again, similarly to how RTL works, and its cooldown has been reduced to 8 seconds instead of 10, so it's going to make the character more fast-paced, more exciting, and hopefully slightly less hateable because you're not camping all game. Tin Man got his much-needed buff, his Rocket Punch. When you hit your lasers, it charges Rocket Punch. Everyone knows this. 5, you get Rocket Punch. Rocket Punch counts towards that now, so you hit your Rocket Punch, now you only need to hit 4 more lasers, you know? Solid change. It'll make him better. His ultimate, it scales how many missiles he fires based on how many alive enemies there are. It's going to make that, like, an opponent in a slow game, you know, he can't just say, oh, well, there's 2 other people alive besides me. I don't need to dodge these 2 missiles. You're going to have to dodge it now because it's going to actually hurt you. It's not going to have much of a difference in 1v1s, but at least it's something towards him. Lastly, his Overload got a slight buff. I think, now I'm not sure, but I swear it used to take 65 energy instead of 60. Not sure about that one. But now it also sends you forward as well as up, so you'll get juggled slightly less. Mara didn't get changed. He should have been buffed. Nothing happened. He is being left in the dust, that's for sure. Sergeant Shield, slight nerf. His dash does 12% less knockback. I'm sure most of you know how ridiculous his knockback is. This will help a little bit. And then his passive mitigation, that's just always there for some reason. It's been decreased, you know, it was 15%, now it's just 5, so he'll die a little quicker. Cryomancer got a much needed buff. He's been made heavier. We don't know how much heavier, but he is heavier. His Frostbolt and his Freezing Breath also do 10% more knockback, also very solid. He needed to do just a little bit more knockback. Not sure if this is quite enough, but, you know, it'll help just a little bit in case that's all we needed. And then lastly, his Ice Barrier, his ultimate, its cooldown has been decreased by 10 seconds. This will help in a lot of ways because before, like, you're fighting a Pug. You're playing it well, but Pug just gets his ultimate slightly faster than you, and there's nothing you can do because you're Cryomancer. You either get destroyed by the mini-Pugs or get away from them and use your double jumps, and you're dead. Not a huge change, but it should hopefully make those situations happen slightly less. Moving on to Spooderman, not a huge change. His Spooder Kick now does 6 damage instead of 5.5. I feel like this is more of a consistency thing, but it's a good change, and it is overall a buff. His Spooder Mastery, or at least the second part of it, was also buffed. There's now no time limit or time restriction on how often you can spawn these Spooder buddies from meleeing people, so now, you know, you hit someone 5 times, you're spawning a Spooder for 10 seconds no matter what, even if you just spawned one a few seconds ago. Pug was not changed at all. I feel like this was a good thing. I don't think you could nerf him without making him too bad, and I don't think you could buff him without making him too good, so better to leave him where he is, and I think that he'll bounce pretty well in the higher tier. He'll end up in the higher tier. Similarly to Pug, Skullfire was unchanged. Once again, I think this is good. You know, maybe you could have done something with Jump Cap, but overall, I think it's better to leave him untouched than try to nerf him or buff him and make him too good or too bad. Karaka, I feel, could have been buffed a little more. They could have made his true power last 12 seconds instead of the 9 that does. It says it lasts 15 seconds. That's a lie. It's been 9 for years. It's still 9. I wish they increased it, but at least we got our 40 energy teleports back. So a slight buff, but he's still going to be mid-tier at best. Voidcrawler got some much needed nerfs. His Void Slash now does 6 damage instead of 7. You know, it's a consistency thing just like Spooder, but it is a much needed nerf. Teleboom also has a decreased hitbox, so, I mean, if you're hitting it, it's not going to make a difference, but it's going to make it harder to hit if you're not good at the character. Jeez, that's like me. And then for some reason they increased his weight. I don't know why they did that. That kind of like counteracts the nerfs, but I don't think it completely does. I think he's still going to be slightly worse overall, but I don't know why they increased his weight. If anything, they should have decreased it by, I don't know about that. But that's just a weird one. I don't know why they did that. Shoop was absolutely murdered. Where do I start with him? RTL. Let's start with RTL. It takes 95 energy instead of 85. His fire and laser also got his sledgehammer nerfed. It lasts 3 seconds instead of 4, and it does 7 damage instead of 8. Maybe give him one of these 3 nerfs, and that's fine. And if anything, he should have been untouched, really. I don't know why they did this. Last but not least, we've got Green Hood. He's gotten some nerfs, so he's still going to remain a high tier for sure. His gravity arrow only lasts 5 seconds. Additionally, he can't spawn grab anymore because randomized spawns. And also, his scatter arrow does 25% less damage. But there's a major catch here. Now you can press shift when you're using switch arrow, and it'll switch reverse. So you can hold shift and switch from scatter to multi, or from trip mine to scatter. Or you can just not press shift and go from multi to scatter and scatter to multi, or scatter to trip mine. So that's a big change, something that we've wanted for years. Pretty good. Now on top of that, we also got 8 new maps that I'm going to go over right now, but I will go over them in more detail in a future video. The first one is Arcade. It looks kind of bland, and it looks like it's going to have some major height issues, but I will say it looks like a pug's wet dream with all these slopes they can walk through. Oh, I can just see a Crymancer sitting up here, a pug here, and him just borking him to the top of the map. 6, 7 out of 10 map, I'd say. Next, we've got Athens. It's a bit weird, but it looks way better. Once again, there's some height things. Not much to say about this. It's a weird angle in the picture, so for now, I'll give it a 7 out of 10. Atlantis. I like this one. Only thing I don't like in this picture is this spot right here. I wish that the elevation were level instead of whatever this is, but overall, this is my favorite so far. 8 out of 10. Dark Side. This is a weird one. It's dark. Once again, there's some height issues, I think, but it's not nearly as bad as Arcade. Don't know what else to say. It looks like it's going to be decent. Maybe it's a bit big. First impressions, I'll give it a 7 out of 10. Next up, we've got Deep Blue. This map, I really like the look of it, especially these walls here. It looks pretty cool. It looks tiny, though. Elevation doesn't seem like it's going to be a huge issue, but it certainly will have size issues, I think. 6 out of 10. But, like, for looks, 9 out of 10, I'd say. Next, we've got Quarine. This gives me laboratory vibes. Really don't like it. The look is solid, just like the look on the lab was solid, but it's not the best. And also this height, this, like, elevation change. Not a fan of this. I think this is going to become the new dojo, because on top of that, dojo was removed. I think this is going to be the new dojo. I really don't like this map. 4 out of 10. Sub-Zero. I actually queued into this map earlier. It's pretty good. It looks good. I think it's going to play good. There's not too much scuffed about it. 8 out of 10. It's definitely my favorite so far. And then there's Western. This camera angle doesn't do it justice. The look is good. The map itself looks like it might be a bit chaotic, but it doesn't look like there's anything too sinful about it, except maybe these slabs here might be weird. But overall, I think it's gonna be okay, but I don't think it's gonna be, like, a specifically good map. Only thing that concerns me is this little windmill here or whatever. That might be a weird camping spot, but overall first impressions with the view I have, 6.5 out of 10. So once again, those are just my first impressions on the new maps. I'm going to make an entire video later going way more into detail on them and actually getting a better opinion on them. But overall, I'm pretty excited for about half of them. Some of them look like they're going to be painful though. I think overall this update went in the right direction. I think it could have gone farther. But in a way, I think it's a good thing that it didn't go too far. Otherwise, we would have been left with an unbalanced, like completely unbalanced game. And this one will certainly put the balance closer together, even if it doesn't make it perfect. So overall, this update gets a 7 and a quarter out of 10 from me. Very specific, but, you know, There's some stuff that's left out, you know. Sanic could have been buffed, but I don't know how you do that without breaking him. Or just, like, the buff being completely insignificant. You know, the maps, I feel some of them will be bad. Who knows? And then, some of them were obviously too little, like bulk. Not enough. But overall, you know, it's all going in the right direction, so it's a solid update, definitely not a bad one. 7.25 out of 10. I'll see you later when I do these maps.